Hello, 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 and welcome back to another segment of the Who's Next show. As you all know, many times we're focusing on the next dentist, the next entrepreneur, the next artist, the next business person. But today we have some the Who's Next show is really about what's next. What are we talking about next? And it's something that we should have never stopped talking about. But today we're going to be talking about it, and we want to help raise awareness and get the conversation going again. So today, very special guest here in studio with me. I have Miss Kelly Allen Gray. Yes, I'm so excited to have you. Thank you so much, from AIDS Outreach here in Fort Worth, Texas. So I'm just going to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and tell your role. Many of you all know her as city council person, but this is a new role, it's a new day, and we're talking about a new topic.
That's it. So thank you, Mona, for having me. It's good to see you in person. I think the last time we saw each other, it was a virtual setting, but I'm Kelly Allen Gray. I am the executive director of AIDS Outreach Center here in Fort Worth, and with me I have my director of development, LaShwana Muhammad, and we just want to have a conversation talking about HIV and AIDS in the African American community.
Please do. Is there anything you'd like to share as we get going?
No, not right off the bat. I'm just excited and happy to be here to have the opportunity to talk about this subject.
Yeah, most of the time when I'm talking to guests, it's lots of smiles and it's some kikis, but this is a very serious topic that we, as African American people, brown-skinned individuals, and even Caucasians, we need to have this conversation back in our households, back in our businesses, back in our congregations, church people, all of my ministers, my deacons, my leaders. We need this conversation back in church, because I know I haven't heard it since maybe National AIDS Day, and that was kind of just it, and that was the day, and we didn't even do anything special. And it has to be as important as breast cancer awareness, as American Heart Association Day, and lupus awareness, all of these other great causes. This cause has to still be talked about. So, when we think about HIV and AIDS, for me, I remember that conversation as a little girl, and we talked about this before we started filming. I remember that conversation was because there was an uncle, that wasn't a family member, but he was, maybe by marriage an uncle, and we remember that he was a pretty uncle, if I can say it like that.
And Ricky, what they call me.
Right.
Yeah.
And, the pretty uncle, his appearance changed, and, his skin started to change, and then his ability to walk upright and strong started to change, and then his skin changed, and then I'm speaking from my personal experience of what I remember seeing, and then his hair started to, thin, and then his voice started, then he was only maybe 40 and he looked like he was maybe 70, all of these things were engrafted in my head, down to the fact that I remember that there was even a smell. I remember specific things about him, as he went through this transition. I remember, it was the whole don't hug him. I remember his mom was washing all of the dishes in bleach. This in the black home. So, I'm just talking about the way it was presented. So then I grew up thinking that, this is a gay man's disease, or this is the pretty uncle type disease, or the homosexual disease. I wasn't thinking of it as this is an epidemic that can touch any man or woman that is participating in unprotected sex and has been infected by the HIV or the AIDS virus. So, let's just talk about that.
So you said a lot.
Yes.
You did. You said a lot. So let's go back.
Yes.
One of the things you said is this is just as important as cancer. It's just as important as heart disease. It's just as important as diabetes. But when you think about it, when you tell someone you have a cancer diagnosis, everyone starts, I'm praying for you. They wrap their arms around you and they love you through whatever it is, through chemo, through radiation, through you losing your hair and losing weight and being unable to eat and everything. The moment you tell someone I am HIV positive, we step back.
True.
So then we start to, we get one fork, one spoon, one knife, one glass, one plate, one bowl, one salsa, one towel, one washcloth, one set of sheets,
Right.
one whatever, and it's all washed in bleach. Well, that's not how HIV is transmitted.
Right.
But when you don't know, that's what you know. And
Right.
when we were much younger, that was the conversation around HIV.
Right.
You describing your pretty uncle is really what I think everyone who knew someone who had contracted the virus, you know, experienced.
Right.
But 20, 30 years ago, the HIV AIDS world was about helping people die with grace. You know, now it is about helping people live virally suppressed, long, healthy lives, even though you are living with a morbidity. It is about how do we help you, you know, continue down that pathway of success, of healthy living. And so our center, our health clinic, because literally we run a health clinic. We are the largest HIV health clinic in Tarrant County, and then 5 surrounding counties that's to the west, to the north, and to the south of us.
Okay.
And so we start off with testing, because we tell everybody you have to, in order to start this process, you need to get tested and you need to know your status.
Absolutely.
But we have a dental clinic. We have a full-fledged dental clinic.
Wow.
We have a nutrition center with an on-staff nutritionist who does meal plans and every single thing else it is that you need. We have a grocery store where
All
you go
on
grocery
campus.
shop, all on campus. We are literally one city block.
Wow.
We do mental health counseling. We do we have a trans wellness center, so we help men who are, you know, going through that process of becoming a woman, and women who want to identify as men go through that process. Here again, it's not about what you believe. It's your choice. My job
Right.
is just to be able to help you walk through that pathway as best you can.
Right.
We do assistance with insurance. I mean, we do case management. Wow. We are literally a full clinic. And then we are next door to the doctor's office and the pharmacy.
Wow.
So when you come to us at 400 North Beach Street, you never have to leave. You just literally go down the sidewalk or through a door,
I love it.
just depending on what it is that you need. And so for us, you said we don't talk about it anymore. And how you came to HIV was through your pretty uncle.
Right.
How I came to HIV is through my sister-in-law who passed in November of 2018. She had AIDS.
Yeah.
She was never the HIV status. She never had an HIV status, because by the time she learned of her diagnosis, she was in full-blown AIDS.
Right.
Now, she lived almost 25 years being having AIDS, but there were days that she was as sick as she possibly could be, but she went through each and every one of those stages. She went through each and every one. And so for us, LaShawana and I, and to have the conversation with you, we don't talk about Black people in the space of HIV.
Yeah.
And we talk about HIV, we remember HIV as a gay man's disease, and really a gay white man's disease. More importantly,
sure.
it was a gay white man's disease, because even though we know our pretty uncle,
Right.
something just ain't quite right.
Right.
We've never quite given him that
Right.
name.
Right.
You know, we never gave him that name. We
Right.
just always said, you know, Uncle such and such and such, something ain't right with him.
Different.
You know, but don't leave him around the kids, and you know, that whole thing.
Right.
But so now in this space where you know, it's young people, it's women, it's us, and HIV does not have it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't discriminate at all. But who's late to the conversation are African American people.
Right.
African American, our people.
Right.
We are late to the conversation.
And talk about being late to the conversation. You mentioned your sister-in-law and how she lived all that time being HIV positive and she wasn't aware of it. That's a statistic that is common among Black African American women. Right now, African American women are the fastest growing group of new HIV cases. And unfortunately, we are late to test.
Okay, wait, ladies, listen to what she just said. She
Say it
said,
again for those. Say it again for those in the back who
say
can't
it
hear you,
again for the
LaShawn.
people in the back.
Say it.
We, African American women, are the fastest growing group of new HIV cases. And that is part of that challenge is the fact that we are late to test. African American women are still dying of AIDS. If the disease is caught during the stage of HIV early, it can be completely removed from the body. But when you come in and your diagnosis at testing is that you have AIDS, the story is still the same. It is a death sentence. Nothing can be done to slow what happens, the processes to the body at that point.
Right.
And you mentioned some of those things. You don't see that anymore, the lesions on the face.
Yeah.
And that's because of the new drugs that are out there.
Yeah.
That used to be very common.
Yeah.
Those indicators.
Right. Those telltale to us
Yeah.
because we're not going to get tested or saying, have you been tested or having that conversation. So I want to take a moment and say to our viewing audience, let this be the day that you decide, I haven't been tested in a while or I have never been. Some people have never been tested.
Yeah.
And let this be the day that you say, I'm going to do this for me.
Yes. If you don't know your own HIV status,
Yeah.
you don't know enough about AIDS.
Yeah. Or yourself.
That's true. Say that again. So a couple of, was it February, March, I don't know, one Saturday night, we were at TCU for an event that they do in support of AIDS Outreach Center, of our center. And LaShawana had given me these numbers. Well, LaShawana had given me some talking points, and I thought, oh, LaShawana, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna do my own thing. But I appreciate these talking points. But her talking points were really kind of my talking points as well, just in my version. So I'm standing down there, and I'm standing in front of this room of people, and mostly white people, but there were some black people in there. And so I said, HIV does not discriminate. So it doesn't matter if you're black, white, blue, pink, or purple. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. And more importantly, it doesn't matter if you're single or you're married. The woman was like, said, let me say that again.
Please.
It does not matter if you're single or if you're married. And so what I'm saying is, and you were talking about your son and something that he had read. A lot of our men are bisexual. Now men don't call them bisexual. Men
Right.
say that they are gay.
Yeah.
If your lifestyle is I like men and I like women, then in a man's mind
They looking at
he's gay.
Yeah.
But in many men's mind, they are bisexual. And so, but they've never told the woman.
Right.
They've never told the woman. And it doesn't matter if if you're just dating or if you're married.
Yeah. Yeah.
You take her choice away. You take her choice away to decide what type of relationship she wants to be in. And so because you are here under this cloak of darkness, because this is what you like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're gonna kill her. You're going to kill her, and you have no,
Wait a
you're
minute.
good with it because you're happy, but you've just taken somebody's choice from them. And in relationships, we always talk about choices.
Right.
Just tell me and allow me to make the choice.
Absolutely.
Maybe I want to say, baby, I love you enough to, you put on a condom, I put on a female condom, we go for broke. But when you don't share the information, you've taken me out of the equation. You've taken my choice away.
Absolutely.
Right.
When you were saying that, I was thinking that being a single woman, of course, I've been married before, but being a single woman, I'm big on, well, tell me what it is, let me choose. But, we never think, like when I'm asking a dude, are you married? That I'm trying to use my spiritual discernment to make sure he's straight. I'm not asking the question. Ladies, we got to be straight up with this thing. As much as we want to know, are you truly single? We need to ask, like, what's your sexual preference? What do you enjoy? Do you enjoy just a woman? Do you enjoy women and men? And let me choose.
Yeah.
Right.
Let me have the choice.
Because you've taken the choice away from me. But just think about this. I was having this conversation the other day. Okay, so let me say this. I call everybody and I just start talking about AIDS. I just, now that's my whole conversation because it's important.
It is.
It is important because, when you're on Facebook, when you're on social media, you're on Instagram, you're on everything else, you see all kinds of crazy stuff.
Right.
But you never see this part of the conversation.
Right.
And so I could post the picture that we just took and say, hey, hanging out for my birthday. This is the week that I'm talking about HIV, such and such and such and such and such. I might get 5 likes.
Right.
It might get shared 1 time, 2 times, but that's by the person who mans, the Facebook page. And so when our hashtag shows up, they're going to automatically do it. But now if I just posted that picture and said, hey, I'm hanging with my girls.
Right.
It's
we
happy
both
hour.
have a birthday in July.
Yeah, it's 500, me hanging out.
Right.
But not of the conversation. And so we have to get back to understanding this is important, and we have to remove the stigma because as Black people, we are harder on each other than we are on anybody else. And then we fall out when somebody does something to us, but we are the hardest on each other. But we have to have this conversation. This conversation is way too important not to have it.
I agree. And Kelly, I think you hit on something. It's the stigma of HIV that's at the root of the wrong choices that we're making. And that stigma came from a lot of misinformation that research and time has cleared up. This is why it's important for us to go back, visit our website, www.alc.org, visit somebody else's website, visit the CDC, learn about it because the stigma, it being like this social thing that you just don't want to know about, it has caused a lot of things. Even our building is very nondescript. You will never know what people are going in and out of that building for.
Unless you know what it is.
Unless you know what it is.
Even our phones. Even our phones. So you call into us, we don't say AOC, we say health clinic.
Right. I love it.
Our number out to you doesn't say AOC. It doesn't show up AOC on your phone. It might say spam likely. It might be a 469 number. It might be anything, but it doesn't say AOC. When we mail you a letter, it doesn't have any of that because we have to be able to protect you because somebody will inadvertently invariably use that against you because you are HIV positive.
When you were telling about the facility and everything there, and I was so blown away. So, I've been in Fort Worth at least 30 years, right? And so, how is it that I went to high school here, elementary? I wasn't born here, but I went to elementary school here, middle school here, high school here, college here, do work, ministry, and community outreach right here. Yet I didn't know about a resource that has been there, hasn't decreased, but has increased and became greater. And so when you were talking, I was like, wow, shame on me, because I didn't even know this.
You have to come take a tour.
I definitely do.
Yeah.
I definitely do. We need to bring more awareness. When you're watching this, if you have to pause it, share it, watch the whole thing, and then share it to someone else, this conversation has to be revived.
It does.
It has to be back. As much as we talk about the spread of COVID, we need to be talking about the spread of HIV. We need to.
Did we talk about COVID in our community? Because, Corona wasn't real. And we were still having hot boy and hot girl summers like folks wasn't dying. And we were, all out on the cut, taking it back home to our grandmamas. And then grandmama would die And, we said, well, grandmama didn't die from corona. She died from 5G. Really? Grandmama died from 5G.
She died from COVID.
Yeah, she died from COVID.
Yeah.
Because you can't sit down.
Right.
Another population we did not mention is the fact that HIV is impacting so many young men.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
18 years old to 25. Now, when you get HIV, it's not a death sentence, but it's a life sentence. You're going to be on medications your whole entire life.
Yeah.
And we have a growing, aging population, we call them seasoned survivors,
Wow.
55 and up, who are now living with HIV, have been living with it all this time, and have questions like, is this ailment because of all the different HIV drugs that I've taken, or is this because of old age? So it's impacting young men,
Right.
males who have sex with males. That's a serious concern.
Yeah.
So when we talk about, we know that the issue is real. It hasn't been anywhere. It's still here. When we talk about that, then like what's the solution? What do we do to continue to bring awareness? It's got to be an ongoing. It's got to be like a liquid document, like it's a fluid thing that's constantly going, right?
We keep talking. We keep talking. We keep talking, and we have to be out in the community. So one of the things that I did last year when I got hired was we had an outreach event, and I think we must have had it the first week I was there. It was like, okay, we're going outdoors. Let's go outdoors. And so we started being back out in the community, doing testing events and being at health fairs, and just putting us, AOC, back out there, but then putting testing back out there. And the number of people who, when we called them up or they, said different things, and we said, hey, we want to show up, we want to come to your health clinic, invite us to your health fair. They said, does people still have AIDS? Is that still around? So LaShwana and I did a tour with one of the foundations here in the city, one of like the major foundations. And we toured her, and we come back to my office, and we're sitting there and we're talking, and she said, I didn't know HIV was still around. I didn't know HIV was still around. So here's the truth. Most of the kids, when we start to talk about education, and we talk about our kids being hungry, and we talk about all of those things that affect our kids' lives and their ability to go to school every day and function, many of their parents are our clients.
Right.
So it doesn't matter how much money you drop into a school. It doesn't matter how many times, how many boxes of food you deliver. That child is living in a household that mama has a secret, and mama's not sharing the secret, and mama is sick, and the kids know that mama is sick, but mama won't tell anybody why she's sick.
And there's no awareness.
Yes. And so everybody, it's one whole emotional battle that is going on. And then you want me to go to school, and you want me to read, and you want me to do math, and you want me to do all of these things. And then I gotta come back home to my mom being sick, or my grandmother being sick, or my auntie, whoever it is that's taking care of me being sick. And so when we were having this conversation with her, you could kind of see the wheels spinning, like I hadn't really thought about it, because you just think it is a hunger problem. No, it is more than just being, it's more than just being hungry. And so I'm going to switch conversation on you, because we've been talking about HIV. And you can't talk about HIV and not talk about other sexually transmitted infections. And
Very true.
Syphilis.
Yeah.
So syphilis is back with a vengeance. And if you remember syphilis.
Did it go anywhere?
It died down.
Oh, okay.
People really didn't kind of get syphilis.
Oh, okay.
You had to do a whole lot back in the day to get syphilis, right?
Okay.
Now it's like syphilis is the sister or the brother to HIV.
Oh.
And so syphilis cases are are on the rise, and so that's a part of also being tested.
Right.
So because you also need to be tested for those other sexually transmitted infections.
And we do
Absolutely.
test for that.
And we
those
do.
things as well.
So we talked about this great facility. I mean, just all the services that you have, but what does it look like from the front door coming in? What would a person experience? Like you talked about some of the services, and you talked about but what does that look like to the person when they first walk through the door? Just kind of walk me through their experience.
So let's walk through 2 experiences.
Okay.
You get the first experience of you're coming in to get tested. So the very first thing that you see when you come through our door is you meet Mr. Ivan. And Mr. Ivan is our greeter.
Okay.
And Mr. Ivan's job is to say, hey, good morning, how are you? Good afternoon, good evening, whatever. Can I help you? But then also to do all of that COVID screening, because
Right.
we are a health clinic.
Right.
And our clients who come to see us have a compromised immune system. So we need to make sure everybody is good. So if you're running a fever, if you've been, near somebody, we say, oh, we're sorry, but let's do this, via telephone.
Right.
Versus in person, except for if you're trying to get tested. And so you come in, you go to the reception desk, you do your whole thing, they check you in, you sit down. And then we have a group of testers. Somebody takes you to the exam room, they do your test, they do everything it is that they need to do, and then we send you away.
Can I talk about the test, Miss Roberta?
Oh, talk about Miss Roberta.
We have a tester that's been with ALC for 25 years.
25
She's
years.
like
Wow.
your grandmother. So you get love when you come in.
You do.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
get
that's
You
good.
do.
That's good. So then they go through the testing process. How long does it take for the result to come?
So you can have, your STD tests are instant.
Okay.
You get a test. Your HIV test takes a little longer, not unless you do a rapid test, but if you do a blood test, then
Right.
it comes back. And then you kind of go on your way. So, but let's say you come in and you test positive for HIV. We don't let you leave our building. We have the testers. We created a room called the compassion room.
I love it.
And so in the compassion room, it's very colorful. You come in, the tester stays with you. We have a group, they're peer advocates. They are your first people that you come in contact with after the testers. Each one of our peers are HIV positive. I can share that information with you because that is their job. Their job, and one of the criteria of their job is that they have to be HIV positive. They are there to really help you on the day that you hear some of the most devastating news that you'll probably ever hear, to hold your hand.
They're the hope givers.
To hug you.
To see beyond.
To tell you, look, I was 19 years old when I was diagnosed, and now this is my age, and here's where I am. And they start to really walk you through that process, and just helping you understand. They follow them for 3 months. Yeah, 3 months. Is that right? 3 months. 3 labs, so 90 days. They follow them that time, and then they are turned over to a patient navigator or a case manager, really just kind of depending, but they are already connected to services. So that's the role of the peer, is to start to help them get the referrals it is that they need to go to the doctor, to go to the pharmacist, to do all of the things. If they want to have mental health counseling, they do all of that. And
it's both medical and non-medical.
Yeah.
So if you've got a situation where you need insurance assistance, transportation,
housing,
emergency housing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we do all of that. We do transportation. So if you have, you don't have a way to get to and from the doctor, Uber and Lyft are our friends. We use the Trinity Metro, bus passes. I mean, so just really our goal is really to remove as many barriers as we possibly can to be able to help you through treatment.
You know, as you're telling the story, like I can literally see it, like I can see the stages. So I want to just say that I love the fact that we connected, that you reached out to me and you're like, look, we need to be talking about this. It's not being talked about enough. It's good if you want to rah-rah everything else, but let's talk about a serious matter. So thank you for reaching out, because I feel like God has given me this platform to be the door for other people, but we also need to be the door for information, the door for, think about this, the door for go get tested, the door for awareness. There's resources that have never left, that have been right here, you know. So I'm so thankful that you stopped by for us to have this conversation. So we've talked about all of these numbers, but let's just take a quick break. Let's take a commercial break, but this is going to be an information break, right? So when we take this break, we're going to just go over some real numbers, and they are alarming and they change daily. So when you're looking at this is a pre-recorded show. Go and check out the website, and you'll be able to see the real-time numbers as well. So we want to take a break and look at those now. What's next? Like, what's the next thing that needs to happen? Like, do you have anything that's upcoming, any events? You know, what's the next thing that we want to tell our viewing audience?
Also, Mama, you must know me so well, because you know I like a good party, right? So last year, I got to tell you this story. So last year, LaShawana used to work at AOC.
Okay.
And she left. And then LaShawana shows back up and she says, because now everybody has told the world, we have a new ED. And, you know, she used to be on city council, and everybody say she's really nice, and she is. And she, you know, she's going to do some stuff. So LaShawana comes and she talks to me, and so we're talking, and so I was like, okay, you want to come back home? Come home. I have no issue with that. Yes. Come home. So LaShawana and I said, we're going to do North Texas Giving Day. LaShawana says, we only raise about $3,500 on North Texas Giving Day. We never raise any money on North Texas Giving Day. I was like, LaShawana, we're going to raise some money for North Texas Giving Day. We're going to throw a whole party on the parking lot. She was kind of looking at me, right? So we throw this party on the parking lot. We raise almost $15,000 for North Texas Giving Day. We had all of these people. This lady shows up who LaShawana was absolutely delighted to see. The lady said she came because she told her husband, you know, AOC, they only just, the employee, it's always about the employees. They just partying with themselves. And then there were all of these people and clients and everybody. So that was a party on the parking lot. So for World AIDS Day, we were going to have oh my gosh, what is it?
Red Ribbon Gala?
No. What they used to have. Hip Hop for HIV. We were going to have a Hip Hop for HIV concert. Okay. And so, but then the COVID numbers started coming up. So we're like, can't be the health clinic and then throw the super spreader event. So we tabled all of that. So this year, we got a phone call from the Rainwater Foundation and some other people that I used to do some things with in the community when I was on council, and said, hey, nobody is hosting a back to school event. Would you all host a back to school event? So I was like, absolutely. Here again, there has to be a whole education around HIV. Absolutely. And so the guy was like, because, you know, people are going to be nervous. Well, first of all, if you're going to be nervous to come to the clinic, you should probably not come here. I'm not asking you to get tested. I'm not doing any of that. But you need a space. Right. So we're hosting on August 13th a community-wide back-to-school event with pediatric immunizations. Ooh. We're doing HIV testing. Tarrant Area Food Bank will be there giving food away and boxes of food. We're doing, we have 500 backpacks that we're giving away. We're having a car show. We're doing snow cones and a bounce house.
It's a Kelly party.
It's a Kelly party.
It's going to be fun.
It's a Kelly party. And then, so of course there's going to be music. And then for World AIDS Day, We are hosting the Red Ribbon Gala on December 1st at 7 p.m. at the Ashton Depot. And so it is actually going to be my big step out into the HIV world of sponsorship and talking about HIV on a larger platform for people who used to support our organization and bringing people back. So that's what we have on the horizon.
So the gala, how if an individual wants to buy a ticket or support,
how you go?
AOC.org/Red Ribbon Gala.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And it is formal.
I'm here for it.
It's a whole formal
They
party.
can buy tickets today.
Yes.
We got sponsorships, and we're going to have a souvenir booklet.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. I love it. So, again, I want to thank you all so much for coming and just allowing us to have a real conversation about a real matter that requires real action. Real action. Today, we got to take this and we got to take it to our children. If we're talking to our children, I talked to my 11-year-old grandson about COVID. I talked to my 5-year-old granddaughter about COVID. Like, don't let people, because she's so super friendly. Hi, she wants to be, like, I was like, hey, you can't, space. But just like we have those conversations with the age appropriate child, we need to be having this HIV conversation. We know what our young children are doing or thinking about doing. We need to have this conversation. I remember my grandmother used to say, everything that's pretty ain't clean. You know, everything that's handsome ain't clean. And that was the soft conversation to it. But in 2023 and beyond, we got to have the real conversation about the awareness of HIV, about AIDS, about sexually transmitted diseases, period. And it starts with us. It starts with our people. So we have to do that. So any lasting words that you would like to share with our viewing audience?
Yes, know your status. Get tested.
Yeah, that's it. Know your status. Get tested. Yeah, that's good. So thank you all so much for tuning in. This has been Moments with Mona in the Who's Next show, and I'm so thankful to have Ms. Kelly Allen Gray and AIDS Outreach here with us. Thank you so much for being our special guest. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.